Hi everyone, welcome to CHRN. This is my ambient guitar YouTube channel, and today I just wanted to show you the setup I'm going to be using for the 2019 Chords of Orion ambient guitar EP in 6 weeks. So let's take a look. Okay, so here's my setup for the EP project, and Bill at Chords of Orion had added some constraints. They were basically suggestions to be able to limit the amount of things you have to do to be able to complete a track, and I think that's an excellent idea. I'm adding one additional constraint for my EP, and that's that I'm going to stick with the same guitar for the whole project. And I'm going to be using this early 80s Ibanez Roadstar 2. I use this guitar a lot. It's a really nice guitar. It has a great feel, so it's great to play. I actually got this really cheap just because it's a previous owner, you can see, had replaced the sort of Floyd Rose type tremolo that came with these guitars with a fixed bridge and a hardtail. That actually worked out a lot better for me. I don't do a lot of tremolo. I do with my left hand, but I don't really use a tremolo bar so much. So that's actually better for me for this particular guitar, but I think for somebody that actually wanted to collect one of these, they probably would want one with the original tremolo. The only drawback this guitar has, I would say, probably are the pickups. So we've got dual humbuckers here, and there is actually a coil splitter, so you can turn these into single coil pickups, and they're not bad. They work pretty well for ambient guitar, but they don't have the best tone of any pickups I've used. There's been some previous videos where I couldn't quite get the tone I wanted from this guitar, and so I used my PRS SE Custom 24, which has great tone, and it's actually a really nice guitar in its own right. But the issue is that when I start switching guitars, then I'll also start switching the settings on the pedals and also in the plugins in Logic, and so then it just ends up taking up a lot of time. So for this project, we're going to stick with the one guitar. So that's an additional constraint. So this is my, I've set up a pedal board for this project with all the pedals that I'll need. This is a relatively small aluminum Gator pedal board, but you can fit a lot of pedals on here. So you can see I've got a lot of stuff. So I'll just quickly go through everything. So we're starting from the right. So the first thing I have is a Polytune tuner, just to keep everything in tune. Then I've got my Wampler Ego compressor. We'll be using that on all of the tracks. I think I'm just going to get a setting I like and then stick with it for the rest of the project. The next pedal we have here is my TC Electronic Dark Matter distortion pedal, and I've been using this a lot over the last year, and I think it works really well for ambience. So for any distortion I can get on this project, I'll be using this pedal. I do have some other distortion pedals. I've got a few that I've actually had since the 80s, and I was previously using a Rat pedal on here a lot, but I think this one's a little more versatile for ambient guitar. So we'll be sticking with that. The next pedal I have is this is a JHS Bonsai, which is basically a whole bunch of different Tube Screamer overdrives in one pedal. And it's actually not an emulator. They're actually replicating the circuits from a bunch of different Tube Screamers over the years, including some that's sort of their interpretation that had never existed before. I think it's a great overdrive pedal, and I've used this on some of my videos. You guys have heard this thing. And so currently I'm running from the distortion into the overdrive just because I was experimenting with some stuff. But normally you would probably see the overdrive first if you were going to use both. So then you could use this as kind of like a boost pedal and then go into your distortion pedal. I'm not going to be using, I'll probably use both of these pedals on this project, but I'm not going to be using them at the same time. So for our purposes, it doesn't really matter which order they're in. The next thing we have is our Morley Alligator volume pedal, so I'll definitely be using that on all of the lead tracks. I also have this more slow engine, and I actually like to use this sometimes on the loop tracks, or if I'm doing a series of chord progressions. I kind of like it. It just keeps all the volume swells even, and then I could just sort of concentrate on the chords I'm playing and not have to worry about the pedal. So it's not great for leads because you don't get that you get that extra expression that you can do by varying up the volume pedal. But it is I am going to be using it for the loop track on some of these. So the next thing we have is a Walrus ARP87 digital delay. I got that a few months ago, and it's a cool pedal. You can get some really weird sounds out of that. Some of them not necessarily pleasant sounds, but it's good if I want to add a little bit of dissonance or something kind of weird. I found some settings on this that work pretty well if I'm using it also with another delay pedal. I've seen some videos online, and people can get actually really good sounds out of these, so I think I just don't have enough experience using it to be able to use it for everything, but I'll definitely be using it sparingly in this project. So actually, let me backtrack. I skipped over my Ditto X2 looper. So we're coming out of the volume pedal into the slow engine into the Ditto X2, and I will probably be using that on every track, on every song. Assuming that I'm going to do 2 tracks per song, which I think I'm going to do. If I end up doing a track that's just a song that's just 1 track, then I may not use the Ditto, but we'll be using that a lot. So this is a must-have. So that actually comes first. Then we're going from this into the Walrus ARP87, and then from this into my most recent pedal acquisition that I have on the board right now is this Boss Delay DM2W Wazacraft. It's part of the Wazacraft series of pedals, and this is kind of a more traditional delay, and I really like the way this sounds, and I've started playing around with it, so I may or may not use it. I'm going to try to use it on 1 or more of these songs, but we'll see. If I'm struggling with it, I may just skip it because I don't want to delay anything. No pun intended. So we're coming from the delay into my Strymon Dig dual delay, which I love and I use on almost everything, and so we'll be using this a lot in this project. It's just a really great sounding dual delay digital pedal that I like a lot. So you can see that up until this point everything has been mono, but then we are taking the stereo out of the Dig and then going into the stereo in on our Hall of Fame. This is it's not the newer Hall of Fame 2, so it doesn't have the expression pedal, it doesn't have a shimmer effect, but I think it's a really good sounding reverb. So I don't do a lot of reverb with pedals. I like to have a little bit of reverb on everything. So we'll be using this, but I'll probably just dial in something I like and then use it on everything. And then we've got the stereo out of this, and then we're heading into this, which I picked up last year. It's a Focusrite Scarlett audio interface. This one actually has 8 inputs, which is a little overkill, for what I'm doing right now. But I wanted to have something that was versatile enough to possibly record bands or other things that I might want to do in the future. And this actually I've been using for a few months, and it's working out really well. This actually was a replacement. I was previously using another Focusrite. This is a iTrack Solo, and I think they still make this, although the new one is part of the Scarlett series, so it has the red case. And it's kind of a nice thing if all you're doing is vocals and guitar, kind of a singer-songwriter type of audio interface. And it sounds good, but it just I couldn't set it up for the stereo that I switched to last year, so that's the reason I upgraded. So I'm basically just using that as a DAC on my PC laptop that I use for work. But our new audio interface is running into my MacBook Pro, and this is where we're going to be recording, and we're using Logic Pro. And to further limit what I'm going to have to do, I'm just going to stick with a couple of presets. So they have these guitar sounds, which are basically just combinations of preset plugins. And there's two that I'm going to, I think I'm going to use. One is the on the clean guitar. There's like one called Heavenly Tweed, which is a nice sound for ambience. It's just kind of a tweed guitar model and a compressor and I think a couple other things on it. And then for the other one, I'm going to use one of the experimental ones that comes with GarageBand and Logic. It's called Fifth Dimension. It's actually the first one in the experimental guitar section of presets. And this one, unlike the Heavenly Tweed where I'm just using all the defaults, this one I have been playing around with to try to kind of get the sound I want. It has this Silver Verb plugin, and I've sort of tweaked this so that I'm not getting these kind of higher frequency sounds that can be a little bit piercing. So I kind of played around with that to cut some of the stuff that's happening with that and also with the compressor. But I've dialed it into something I think that'll probably work. So I'm going to use that for all the tracks. And that's pretty much it. I am going to stick to the constraint of just doing one or two guitar tracks so that we don't get carried away. I usually do more than that. I don't usually do a lot of tracks, but usually at least 3 or 4. But that does become time consuming when you start playing around with all different kinds of plugins and recording things and moving things around. So we're going to try to keep it simple for this one. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So I look forward to seeing what a lot of you guys come up with, and my next video after this one will be the first track for the EP. All right, thanks a lot. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.